Hello, welcome to Anshika's Academy. This is chapter number 2 of the Tamil Nadu Board History 12th class. There are many fact topics in this chapter. First, the Third Mysore War and Tipu Sultan's efforts to defeat the British, administrative reforms of Lord Cornwallis, judicial reforms, police and other reforms, achievements of Lord Cornwallis. Lord Cornwallis, a warrior statesman, succeeded Warren Hastings as Governor General in 1786. He belonged to an influential and aristocratic family which had wide political connections. He was also a close friend of Prime Minister Pitt and Dundas. The most influential member of Board of Control, he distinguished himself as a remarkable soldier in the American War of Independence, although he surrendered at Yorktown in 1781 before the American troops. His reputation was not spoiled. He still enjoyed the confidence of the authorities at home. After his return from America, he was offered the Governor Generalship in India. Cornwallis was prompted by a strong sense of public duty and enjoyed the respect as well as confidence of his fellow countrymen. The Parliament was prepared to give him extraordinary legal powers to carry out radical reforms in administration of Bengal. It amended Pitt's India Act of in 1786 so as enable him to overrule the decision of the majority of his council if necessary. The appointment of Cornwallis was significant in one respect. A new tradition of choosing a person from an aristocratic family for the post of Governor General was initiated. This was his good fortune that he had an excellent team of subordinates comprising John Shore, James Grant, and Sir William Jones. Also, Cornwallis commenced his work under beneficial circumstances. He had to carry out his policy with caution. टीपू सुल्तान एंड थर्ड मैसूर वॉर 1790 से 92. The Treaty of Mangalore 1784 exhibited the military strength of Mysore, exposed English weakness and increased Tipu's strength. Like his father, he wanted to eliminate the English from India. His other designs were to wreak vengeance on the Nizam and on the Marathas as they had betrayed his father during the hour of need. The chief causes for the Third Mysore War was Tipu Sultan strengthened his position by undertaking various internal reforms. This created worries to the British, the Nizam of Hyderabad, and the Marathas. Moreover, Tipu made attempts to seek the help of France and Turkey by sending envoys to those countries. He also expanded his territories at the cost of his neighbors, particularly the Raja of Travancore, who was an ally of the British in 1790. The British concluded a tripartite alliance with the Nizam and the Marathas against Tipu. War broke out in May 1790 between the England and War broke out in May 1790 between the English and Tipu. It was fought in three phases. The first phase commenced when Meadows, the governor of Madras, initially directed the campaign to invade Mysore, but Tipu's rapid movements halted the progress of English troops and inflicted heavy losses on them. In the meantime, Cornwallis himself assumed command in December 1790. This was the beginning of the second phase of the war, marching from Vellore. He captured Bangalore in March 1791, but Tipu's brilliant strategies prolonged the war and Cornwallis was forced to retreat to Bangalore due to lack of provisions. The third phase of war began when timely aid from Marathas with plenty of provisions helped him to resume his campaign and march against Srirangapatnam against this time Tipu was at a disadvantage. Swiftly and English forces occupied the hill forts near Srirangapatnam and seized it in February 1792. Tipu Sultan concluded the Treaty of Srirangapatnam with the British. The terms of the treaty were as follows. Tipu had to give up his half his dominions. He had to pay a war indemnity of 3 crore rupees and surrender two of his sons as hostages to the English. Both sides agreed to release the prisoners of war. The Treaty of Srirangapatnam is a significant event in the history of South India. The British secured a large territory on the Malabar coast. In addition, they obtained the Baramahal district and Dundigarh. After this war, although the strength of Mysore had been reduced, it was not extinguished. Tipu had been defeated but not destroyed. Reforms. The internal reforms of Cornwallis can be studied under three main heads: administrative reforms, revenue reforms, or permanent settlement, given in lesson second. Lesson 7: revenue reforms or permanent settlements, judicial and three men: administrative revenue reforms or permanent settlement, judicial and other reforms. Adminis- Administrative reforms of Cornwallis. The greatest work of Cornwallis was the purification of the civil services by the employment of capable and honest public servants. He aimed at this economy, simplification, and purity. He found that the servants of company were underpaid, but they received very high commissions on revenues. In addition to that, they conducted forbidden and profitable private trade in the names of relatives and friends. Cornwallis, who aimed at cleansing the administration, abolished the vicious system of paying small salaries and allowing enormous prerequisites. He persuaded the directors of the company to pay handsome salaries to the company servants in order that they might free themselves from commercial and corrupting activities. Further, Cornwallis inaugurated the policy of making appointments mainly on the basis of merit, thereby laying the foundations of Indian civil service to cut down on extra wages. He abolished a number of surplus posts. Another major reform that Cornwallis introduced was the separation of three branches of services, namely commercial, judicial, and revenue. The collectors, the kingpins of the administrative system, were deprived of their judicial powers and their work became merely to collection of revenue. Judicial reforms. In the work of judicial reorganization, Cornwallis secured the services of Sir William Jones, who was a judge and a great scholar. Civil and criminal courts were completely reorganized. At the top of the judicial system, the highest civil and criminal courts of appeal, namely Southern Diwani Adalat and Southern Nizamat Adalat, were functioning at Calcutta. Both of them were presided over by the Governor General and his council. There were four provincial courts and appeal at Calcutta, Dhaka, Murshidabad, and Patna, each under three European judges assisted by Indian advisors. District and city courts functioned each other. A European judge every district was provided with a court as already started. Cornwallis had taken away from the collectors of their judicial powers and made them solely responsible for the collection of revenue. As a result, district judges were appointed. Indian judges or munsifs were appointed to all the courts of at the bottom of judicial system. In criminal cases, Muslim law was improved and followed. In civil cases, Indian Muslim laws were followed according to the religion of the litigants. In suits between Indian Muslims, the judge was deciding authority. Cornwallis was mercifully by temperament. He hated barbarous punishments and abolished those like mutilation and trial by ordeal. Cornwallis was better Cornwallis was better known as a lawgiver than as an administrator. With the help of his colleague George Barlow, Cornwallis prepared a comprehensive code covering the whole field of administration, judicial, police, commercial, and fiscal. This code was based upon the principle of Montesquieu, the separation of powers, which was popular in the West in 18th century. In order to curb undue exercise of authority, Cornwallis made all officials answerable to the courts. Police reforms. The effective implementation of judicial reforms required the reorganization of police administration. The district judge controlled the police. Its districts were divided. Each district was divided into thanas or police circles, each of which was about 20 square miles. It was placed under an Indian officer called the Daroga, who was ably assisted by many constables. However, the police organization was not as effective. In the words of Marsman, the Daroga enjoyed almost unlimited power of extortion and became the scourge of the country. Other reforms. Cornwallis reformed the Board of Trade, which managed the commercial investments of the company with the aid of Charles Grant. He eradicated the numerous abuses and corrupt practices. Fair treatment was given to weavers and Indian workers. Increase the remuneration for honest services. Estimate of Cornwallis. Cornwallis, a blue-blooded aristocrat, was an ardent patriot. He discharged his duties fearlessly, and his life was an embodiment of duty and sacrifice. He perceived the danger of Tipu's growing power and curtailed it by boldly discarding the policy of non-intervention. As an administrator, he consolidated the company's position in India and started the tradition of efficient and pure administration. Also, there were defects in his permanent settlement of land revenue. His administrative and judicial reforms were solid achievements. He may be regarded the parent of the Indian administrative service and founder of an efficient and clean system of administration. Sir John Shore 1793 succeeded Cornwallis as Governor General, and his administration was uneventful. Learning outcome of this chapter is the causes, course, and results of the Third Mysore War, changes made in the administrative machinery by Cornwallis, judicial reforms and its importance, reorganization of police, a general estimate on administration of Lord Cornwallis. Thanks for watching.